Hey friends, back again. I've been working on facing these cabinets here. Right now I'm working on facing these cabinets. All of the stuff that I have up is not only shaped, cut, and finished, so that I do it in sections, all the horizontals first and then go to the verticals. But I want to show you just a little bit of a trick that I use. Because of the size of this project, it's difficult to just mentally keep in mind exactly where each piece goes. And there's not a lot of pieces that are identically the same because of the different styles of cabinetry that I have in here. So I'll show you just a little trick that I have decided to use. So far, working pretty good. Check it out. Here we are. I have all the horizontals in here, top and bottom. Now, I have to cut the verticals. And as you can see, I have numbered all of the verticals here. This will allow me to cut several at once, and all I have to do is write down the number to each one so I know exactly where each piece will fit in. So see, real simple, real easy little trick that you can use. What that does is that allows me to cut out several of these pieces, measured and cut, and do a bunch of them at once. And I don't have to worry about forgetting where each piece goes. I just thought I'd share that with you, friends. I actually thought about that just a little bit ago because I was looking at this. Honestly, my train of thought, just to show you where my mind just kind of wanders off to different places. I was taking measurements, making cuts, and just setting them here. Okay, just setting them there. All right, friends? So I would know where they went, right? I'm going along, doing all my cut pieces. I got a bunch more here, for the short pieces over here. And each one is a specific width, a specific shape, everything, right? And I got to looking at this and I'm thinking, man, this is gonna be a bear to remember where everything goes. And then I thought, it'd be so much easier if this entire project was just a great big jungle gym with all of the pieces marked out, labeled, and numbered. Hey, wait a minute. I can label and number. So that's where that started in. So see, my mind just like wanders off into weird places while I'm trying to get things done, going, okay, how am I gonna remember this? I've got a lot more pieces to cut out, but I'm getting right to the point where I'm gonna start finishing, staining and finishing. And that's what kind of brought this whole thing on. I'm like, oh my God, how am I gonna remember all this? Well, here you go. I just figured I'd share that with you, friends. I'm gonna show you how I cut them out and then, resaw the lumber, cut to length, and then shape them on my router table before I fit them in and make sure everything is copacetic. So you can keep watching if you want and take a look at how I'm just basically creating my own trim and finish work. It fits, friends. Got it. Yeah, label it. That's number 9. Just label it with the same number that's up there. And when I get it stained and finished, I can nail it up. All right, friends. Well, I've had a few DMs in my Instagram wanting to know what my setup is for doing my finish work inside the trailer here. So I'm going to give you kind of a quick little tour as to what I use and how I'm set up. I'm going to give you a short little tour here, and you'll get to see what I'm doing. I have a couple of sawhorses set up that I actually set up so that I could cut sheet goods, because the sheet goods that I've been cutting are actually 1/8 inch thick material, so they're real flexible, and it's difficult to get the saw to stay stable when you're in the middle of the board. So I've got 4 2x4s here that were set up as stringers. They're sacrificial lumber, just scrap material that I can cut and, you know, zip across the top. As you can see, I've done here, I don't cut very deep beyond my target depth, but I do cut the wood. Now over here I've just got a little job site table saw that I'm using for resawing my lumber. These are the 1x10s that I'm starting out with. I just resaw them to whichever width I need. And then over here I've got sliding miter saw. I always call it a chop saw, but sliding chop saw allows me to cut wider material, so those 1x10s I can cut the entire 1x10 very carefully and not have a bunch of chips, you know, break out from the cut. It's on its own little mobile job site stand that I bought a few years ago for another application. I've got another chop saw over there, and over here is my router table. We picked this up about 20 years ago and built our own little stand for it. But this is where I'm putting the round over on the boards, which you saw me do yesterday. Just rounding over the corners, giving it kind of a finished look. And that way also, if anybody bumps their head against it or their hand, it's not a sharp corner for them to catch on. This is a 10-foot 5x10 cargo trailer, just a little guy, but this is what we hauled the material in. There's my CV axles for my truck. Gonna get those fuckers put on. But we're just hauling the material in here. So friends, as you can see, it's a pretty simple setup. There's nothing super fancy, anything like that. I mean, and each piece of the equipment, you know, I've bought one at a time over the course of the last, in one case, 20 years ago. So, you know, it's stuff I already had. I didn't buy anything specific for this job. And you can get by with a lot of other things too. You know, if you have an older chop saw or miter saw, depending on what you decide to call it, you can use that too. You know, even if you have wider boards, you can cut and then flip the board over and cut it again. I've done that quite a few times. You can use whatever you have on hand. It doesn't have to be a specific piece of equipment. Just, you have to adapt the mindset of, I will use what I have and upgrade as I can, which is all I did. I have, as you probably saw, my finish nailer is a DeWalt battery finish nailer. That is probably, for finish work, that was probably my best purchase ever. I love that thing. No hoses or anything to drag around. All right, I'm going to take you through my finishing process here. So, what I have here is a random orbit sander. I've got this piece of material here that I have to sand down and finish up. As you can see, I do have it marked for where it goes inside the trailer. What I use here is, this is 60 grit sandpaper to start with, just to kind of smooth it out a little bit, and then I'll go up to the next size, which, because this is a working trailer and it will see tons of use over the summertime. I'm only going to go up to 120 grit, which is the next step. If I was going to do it in a house, then I would go to 220, but I'm not, so I don't have to worry about it. Starts the process of smoothing it up, knocks down the heavier duty grain, starts to open the pores of the wood. The next sanding with the 120 grit will really start to open the pores up, and it'll smooth out the surface even more, considerably actually. And I don't know if you noticed, but I do hit the round over just to kind of smooth that up and dress it up, make it look a little bit nicer, okay? So now we're going to change sanding discs. Just Velcro fits right on there. And I'll do it again. And it is literally that fast. Okay. See, nice pretty grain, got a nice little knot in there. It'll give it a little bit more character and it'll make it stand out, but it's nice and smooth for the purposes of what we need now. And the corners are nice and rounded, even the rounds are nice and smooth. So if somebody bumps their hand against it, it's not going to be real sharp like it would be on a standard corner. You know what I mean? And now we stain. All right, friends. So this is the material that we're using. Varathane wood stain, classic black. That's the stain that I showed you before that my wife picked out. I'm actually starting to really like this, especially once the finish is on. I just use a screwdriver, pop the lid open. Now, before you use this stuff, before you use it, you really do need to mix it up. This is a little bit big for doing this, but it gets the job done. Just make sure that your stain is good and mixed. Once in a while, when it's on the shelf for a long time, what'll happen is that the stain actually begins to separate from the oil. So you want to make sure it's good and mixed. This one I've mixed a couple of times already, so it's not going to take very long. A regular paint mixer works fantastic for this because the mass doesn't cause the fluid level to rise very far. And I'm going to show you how I do this. There's actually a lot of different schools of thought on how you apply stain. Everybody seems to think that their way is the best. I don't care. This is what I do. This is what works for me. So what I do is I do the sides first and the ends, and then I'll do the top. Now the sides and the end grain are really going to soak in a lot of stain, okay? A lot of material is going to soak right in there. This wood is thirsty. It's going to drink it right up, okay? And I make sure to rub it, work the stain into every crack and crevice. Okay. Go to the other side, do the exact same thing. Now, when I do the top, I apply some material and then I work it around in circles to try and work it into all of that grain. Again, this is how I do it. It is not the only way to do it. I work it right in there, make sure it gets into all of the grain, and then I let it set for just a minute. Now remember, this wood is thirsty, so it's really going to be drawing that material in there. And when I look at it, and it's getting to be about the shade that I want, which is right about now, I take a cloth and I wipe the excess material off. And see, the sides are already dry before I even go to wipe them, because it's drank it all in. Now, if you're not happy with that, you can still apply another coat of this stain. And you don't have to wait. You can do it right away. Okay? But you don't have to really work it in if you do a second coat. It's not like the first. You can apply that, let it start to soak it in, because it will continue to drink it in as much as it possibly can. And then you wipe off the excess, and you're left with a very beautiful piece of wood. Now I am going to let that stain finish drying. You know, all the stuff that's on the surface needs to dry before I apply the finish coats, which I do 2 finish coats on these. Okay, that's what I'm doing for this trailer. In a home, I usually apply 3, maybe even 4, depending on the application or what kind of a material I'm using. Remember, this is just regular pine. It's 1-by material purchased at Home Depot and just made into the style of trim that we wanted to use. So you don't have to use a bunch of expensive hardwoods. You can use just regular, everyday pine that you can buy at Home Depot or even Lowe's. It doesn't have to be fancy. What matters is that you like the grain pattern. All right, so it's time for the first coat of hard finish. What I am using is something that I haven't been able to find in years. Penchrome. It's a waterborne acrylic finish. Good hard finish. Comes out super nice. High gloss.
And what I generally do is I get a good coat on the sides here. Doesn't have to be super thick. Remember, we're doing 2 coats of this stuff. Ooh, that's thicker than I usually put. Holy cow. All right. And then I'll do the top. Apply the material with the first stroke. And spread it with the next. Now you will have some drips along the sides, so before you're done, just swipe your brush right down the sides and eliminate that excess material.
Now, I let that dry. I'll come back in a little bit. Hit it again. Now, I've already showed you, excuse me, I've already showed you my numbering system, okay? So let's start with a piece that's already done. This is, wonder if it'll show up. There you go. Number 6. So I look around for my number 6, and this happens to be over here. 6 is over here, written, so you know exactly where you intended that piece to go. All right. And nail it in. And you just continue that process. And next will be the one that we're finishing outside, which is not quite ready for the second coat. All right, so it's still just a hair wet, not too bad. It's dry to the touch, it's just not hardened up yet, which will be fine for the purposes of what we're doing. Now what I use for the next step is just a little 120 grit sanding block, sanding sponge basically. You can get at Home Depot or Lowe's, and very lightly just hit each side. See, super light. All that does is just knock the ridges down, knock everything down so it's nice and smooth. That's it, okay? It also creates a bit of a bonding surface for the next coat. I wipe the dust off because there is a little bit of dust off of this finish when you hit it with the sander. So I wipe that off personally. You don't have to, but I just like to. If you are going to preserve the brush, get yourself a plastic bag. Any plastic bag will work. A shopping bag. Plastic shopping bag will work perfectly, actually. You stick your brush down in there. You squeeze it to get rid of as much air as possible. And you just twist it shut. And that'll stay nice and wet. It will not harden up. It'll stay nice and wet and ready for the next use. Just a little tip. Hey, sweetheart, what you doing?
Try to clear the glass so the new one came up beautiful.
More beautiful?
Yeah.
You put a lot of time into this.
Yep.
So what is it you want to do?
I just want a new glass came up. I mean, grow instead of the old one.
You just gonna put those green chairs in there, or you got something else in mind?
Which one? No, I'm gonna put the long table that we have.
The picnic table?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, big guy. What you doing? Huh?
Helping Mama.
Helping Mama? You Mama's little helper today? Okay, it's been about 12 minutes. It looks like it's going to be dry enough. So, as I said, just take your rag, run it right along the bottom edge of both sides. The two end caps are fine. Just the two long sides, that's where the majority of your runoff is going to be, because that's where you were brushing back and forth. Tip: if you're using a sash brush or a bristle brush like this, you're going to have more of that runoff than you will if you use a foam brush. I just don't have one handy here right now. And even though you watched me put that other on, just so you get to see this one piece that we've been working on this morning from start to finish. One. Same ballgame.
Slide it into place, and because it's a centerpiece, I want equal distance on both sides, about a 32nd of an inch overlap. Equal distance.
Now I got a nail that's sticking out just a little bit right there. All right, now I don't know if you can see this. I'm gonna move you. I've got one nail that protrudes just a little bit past the surface. That's because it's right in the edge of a knot. And being right in the edge of a knot kind of messes with it. On this, but you just take a little nail punch. Okay, it's flat, kind of recessed right on the end because it's specifically for this application. Stick it against there, right against the head of the nail.
And you drive it in.
Now, I just got to repeat this entire process about another 40 times. All right, friends, it's the end of the day. Much has happened today. I mean, a lot. Okay, I've had to go into town many more times than I normally do. My dad got his car fixed. My truck is fixed, and I got it back. Yeah! That's actually super important to me. So I'm like, anyway, friends, I did, however, manage to get this set of cabinets completely sealed up outside of the doors. The doors I will build separately later. But as you can see, the end cap is on both ends. I also got the bottom on. Everything looks real good, actually. It fit together real nice. It looks pretty. My wife is super, super stoked about it, which makes my life a lot easier. But yeah, and I'm super glad that she's happy with it. Over here, I'm gonna move you, so watch yourselves here. Right over here, I got this one done as well as the end cap here, okay? And I have the underside finishing outside. It actually might be dry enough here to slap it up here. That one I'm doing a little bit different because of this offset here. But I'm gonna get that all taken care of. Also, I pulled these 45-degree supports out and rounded the corners on them, and my wife went ahead and stained them because she wanted that instead of encasing these things. So they're back in place and they support just fine. Plenty of weight. So those are good. Now I gotta, next I gotta worry about the rest of this microwave shelf here. Oh, I'm gonna turn you. I gotta finish up this microwave shelf here, which means wrapping it around, finish the bottom, and I have to cut a couple of funky pieces to kind of go in here and make that all pretty as well. So that's the next step tomorrow, as well as working on the bottom of the service counter. I have to do the same thing, face it all out, and put an end cap. I'm gonna move you again. I also have to place an end cap here, made of the same material, so everything is encased and the way my wife wants it. After that, I have to set up the gray water tank, which means drilling a huge hole through the floor. That'll be fun. And get ready for that. So, and after that will come the electrical. So it's all starting to really come together the way it's supposed to. So I am super stoked about that. This is looking good in my opinion. So I'm happy with it. And I got the mosquitoes out here, sorry. But I'm happy with it. And I hope you you have enjoyed watching me kind of go through my process of the trim. And you know, maybe you've learned something. Maybe you already know better than what I did. I don't know. It's entirely possible. I'm no expert. I enjoy doing it, but I'm no expert at it. There's plenty I don't know. Anyway, friends, it's time for me to go. I'm going to shut down for the day and see about maybe getting a bite to eat. I'm starting to get a little hungry. But thank you for joining me today. And thank you for watching on all of my videos that any of you have watched. If you are new to the channel, welcome. And I hope you enjoyed this video as well as future videos. Don't forget, hit that thumbs up button and the subscribe button down below. As you all know, that little bell, you hit that, you'll get a notification every time I post. So, take care, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Remember, show everybody love and respect. Later. I'm out.